Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show. And today, I'm very proud to have Julia Hitzbleck with me. She is an innovation leader in Bayer, co-founder of Accelerate, and digital and open innovation expert. And I'm so happy that she's here with me. Hi, Julia.
Yeah. Hi, Adi. Hi, everyone. I'm super happy to be in the session with Adi.
Yeah. And today, we're in the middle of this COVID-19 thing, and we cannot really not see that we have an issue that we can maybe solve with innovation. And we're going to talk about how corporates can tackle the situation and make it better with innovation together. So tell us, in the beginning, how did you come about to be an innovation expert? How did you enter this field?
It's actually a long story, and it's, as I think with most innovators, not so straightforward. So I'm actually a chemist by training, so I learned experimentation the very hard way, right? With lots of experiments in the lab for many, many years. After that, I started with technology scouting and did a lot of product and portfolio development and basically a lot of technology push. And I've seen many great innovation projects, like from the R&D side, where people put a lot of thinking and hard work. And in the end, it still fails because the market is not ready, or you advance really quickly and fast, but you're still not fast enough for management expectation because they only want to spend as much money on product development before getting returns.
Sure.
So at some point I said...
in health, even more.
In health, but also in I would say in all other industries. It's always underestimated how long it takes to develop a new technology. Yeah. And if you're just looking to push a technology to the market, there are lots of mistakes you can make with, leading focus groups too much into, do you like my solution? Do you like my solution? Instead of really trying to understand where there is a need for it. So at some point I realized, I think that there is more to it. And I was really curious to explore all the new tools, like from business model canvas and the lean startup. There was also a lot of new methodologies coming up about 10 years ago. And I was really curious to see how can we push this experimentation mindset into the business side of it. So also in marketing, for example, how can we experiment there if you're in unknown territory, if we want to really launch something new?
Yeah. So it was like a change for you to go from the tech side to the business side, or it was like natural thing for you?
I know it was a coincidence as well, right? So in a large corporate, you quite often change your position. Also from I went from R&D into a corporate development team, strategy consulting, which was also great to learn more from a high level business perspective. And then I was part of several strategy projects, or also leading them. And then we decided to develop a new innovation strategy for Bayer, not looking into the business aspects for it, but really changing our innovation culture. And as part of that, we looked more into, what actually needs to be done to what kind of hurdles do we need to remove so that people can collaborate better, be more customer focused, learn to experiment. And out of that, I realized that I do have a lot of know-how, that I definitely have a passion for it. And that's what we've been doing the last few years, and it's been really great.
Oh, that sounds great. So tell me, how do you think this crisis changed what you were doing? So you know a lot about methods and workshops and training. So how is it different in the virtual or not face-to-face world?
So there are different aspects to it. First of all, I would say a lot of our innovation community members had more experience already with virtual meetings, Zoom, Teams, whatever, because we played around with it. And since we are engaging a global community, we always had to leverage it. So there was some experience already. And I think also from running a lot of webinar, trying to get people excited about the topics, we with the community experimented a lot with the right formats and engagement methods. So the type of virtual facilitation was already really, really high. Now, from switching from face-to-face to virtual settings, of course, there was a stretch, because if you're running a workshop with like 20 people in the room, you can feel the energy, you see how people interact. There is this personal connection between people. It's so much easier to generate, a relaxed atmosphere or activate people and do something together. Now, if you switch this to virtual, it usually means you need a lot more time for preparation. You really need to think it through. You need, more support, because you only have your screen, or maybe you have several screens, but it's only still you in front of technology.
Yeah, of course.
And what we've seen also, that it usually takes longer to get to a result, because it's only one person speaking at a time. I mean, you can do a lot with virtual, like whiteboards or breakout sessions, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I feel that the energy is the most important part when we do a workshop, because everybody feels everyone, and it's like the excitement and the creativity is there. But when you're sitting and not standing and not together, it's much harder. And maybe that's why it takes more time to really get to the results, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, it's a purpose of a creative workshop, right? You want to build on each other's ideas and co-create things together. And if you do this in a virtual setting, you need to think much harder on how do we actually facilitate this engagement, and how can we help everybody to participate to get the right results.
So now, I cut you, but could you tell us, like, what kind of workshops, like what are you doing together, what you do in other methods, and what kind of training or workshops you're working on, and how is it different now?
So there are different things. We have an innovation network in our organization where innovation coaches run either creativity or problem-solving workshops following systematic inventive thinking. So it's a standardized process. Usually we say it's a mini session, because you only need like 4 or 5 people, and it takes maybe an hour and a half. We've really worked with motivated coaches to see how can we translate this now into a virtual setting. And they said, you can do it. But as I said before, you need more time to prepare. In a normal workshop, you would, have trigger cards or, map out the process and then move things around so it's very visible. Now, if you do this on the screen, of course, you can do the same thing. But somebody always has technical problems. Not everybody sees the same thing. Then there is a delay. And so you just need to plan for more time with it. But on the other hand, what we also realize, and I think in general, that's a positive aspect, because now you're forced to everybody to join virtual. There are no board. I mean, as long as you're somehow connecting with the time zone, anyone can contribute. So you have a much higher potential of diverse inputs. And that's also something that I've seen from in my normal role. I ran a lot of workshops in our Berlin site. So it was about being in that room at the right time. And there's only as much space. So maybe 20 or 30 people, there was maximum. Now, if you need to do this online, anyone can participate. I mean, some people say, it's too early for me in the morning, I can't join. Next time we shift. But we have amazing people from all around the world and joining the sessions. And it's, again, you need to think a little bit if you talk or give an interactive talk in front of a real audience. Of course, people can raise their hands, and you can start a discussion. It's not everybody speaks up online, so you need to think about prompts, forcing people to interact, to not just sit there and listen or start doing something else.
Yeah, of course. I think that in general, there is this really big potential of working, as you say, online, because you can reach anyone. You can see that you can do things from multi-nations, multi-countries, and it's really easy. On the other hand, it feels like, as you said, you need more energy and more focus, because people, they're sitting at home. Most of the case, they have only shirts, which is nice, and they have slippers on their legs, and their head is not really used to doing things like collaborating this way. So it's a mindset that needs to be changed. And I think it's a challenge in general to work this way and get everyone motivated and focused and engaged. And, it's like, it's really needed all the time. You cannot just say, okay, now you do it yourself. Like as a facilitator, you need much more, you need to be very into what you're saying, and everybody should really understand and collaborate.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
Yeah, but I must say, everyone saw a lot of activities around, like, let's solve the COVID-19 challenge together. Right. So a lot of positive energy where people suddenly started to collaborate, or were not just started, but maybe in a different setup, were then more motivated. So like also within the company, we had challenges on our like crowdsourcing platforms where people just came up with so many great ideas. I mean, some were covered already, but some really good ones also came up, and people thought more about technology and really wanted to engage. And also some part of the OpenExo community or around exponential organizations, they launched this series of very short, like mini hackathons around purpose challenges, where people from all around the world joined in just 3 hours, a very short time. You could still develop a solution, and that was great. And like later on, we also worked with the MIT, for example, on solving problems for COVID.
Yes. So you're giving like two examples. One is like with your community and open innovation, and the second one is with academia. So could you give us like example what was in these mini hackathons? I took part in several hackathons dealing with COVID and what could be done, but for you, it's a very specific group of community people. So what did you do together? It sounds really interesting.
I would say with OpenExo, we really looked into how can we improve health, or later on everybody realized that during lockdown a lot of people lose their jobs. So how can we redefine work? And a lot of professionals engaged in there as well. So it was not so much about students, but more also professionals who were like feeling the struggle themselves, trying to redefine work, or also wanted to contribute with their expertise on solving the issue in their specific country. And since it is a global pandemic, like everyone was affected and wanted to change. I would say with the MIT hackathon, it was a lot more mixed. So there were many more students in there, but also like from 14 to 60 plus people. And I think it's really great. And in general, I would say if you work with academia, students always give a fresh perspective.
Sure.
So whether you're in an organization or a professional already for a long time, you tend to generate this fixedness as that this is how it's going to be done, right?
Right.
And students, they learn your methodology. They're not that fixed yet, right? They don't know, this is the procedure, and if you do A, then B will happen. So they come with a fresh mind and challenge you in a different way. And in the end, they're also a different generation than already. Right. So they have different priorities. And I always feel it also adds to diversity, right? Because sometimes you always think of your own perspective or your own generation.
Right.
They have other talents.
Yeah, of course. I think that in general, co-creation is something that you cannot really create within your small group or within your company, even in a big company, when you keep in mind that there are so many other perspectives, and you could talk to other people that are involved, or they want to share with their point of view. It could be like maybe some of your suppliers, some of your users or clients, or people who are just interested in this domain, I guess. So tell us, give me one example of what you've done with the health. Like, what could be a good idea to solve this health point, other than, to create a vaccine is really obvious, but it seems like so many other problems, like emotional or mental health issues, so forth, could be addressed.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a very nice example where COVID also accelerated our digital transformation around the world again. And where the focus not only on developing a vaccine, but understand behavior and help people more holistically, because everybody became aware that there's a lot of tension and mental stress also involved with the situation. It was not only for one group, but suddenly for everybody. And I feel partially in these hackathons, but also like a lot of other like companies try to understand, so what can we quickly develop out of sometimes existing technology to put something together that helps people, right? A lot of countries launched tracing apps, whether you want to be traced or not, right? But there is a certain, if the benefit is high enough, suddenly people are willing to share data, which they maybe didn't want to do before. And the development is then very much accelerated because everybody wants a solution as fast as possible. And suddenly people collaborate along the value chain or with really different expertise and say, hey, we do have a resource to add, whether it's data or a tool. And there was a lot more willingness to collaborate. And whether this is now like with apps or, I mean, I think in general, there was a lot of digital development where people said, okay, so if we don't have physical contact, what can we do? And whether it's like also helping triage in the waiting room, basically, or avoiding that people spend too much time waiting for a solution or for an appointment, like digital support systems.
And if I would ask you, what is the most important key that innovation holds for this change, for this crisis? What would innovation help us do, to overcome this or make it better for everyone? What would you think?
So I think that different things, since the world changed so quickly, nobody had a plan on the table or in the pocket, right, to execute. So it really forced everyone around the world to explore opportunities and to collaborate with others, because not a single person had the right answer, right? You see a lot of blaming of like authorities that they didn't act well, but nobody has a better solution, right? So I think with a bit more innovation background, you're more resilient and it's easier to cope with the situation, because if people are naturally curious and not too stressed out with, oh, that didn't work, or I need to do something, but I don't see the result yet, right? But I trust the process and I believe in the power of people to advance, and together we will find a solution. And maybe not in the first attempt, but we will learn, and at some point we will have a result. I think that's really where innovation comes into play.
Yeah, it's like experimenting and knowing that although if you could fail or not, it's you're learning and you're getting better on the way. And it's part of your way doing things, like trying things out. And I think that it's connected to the fact that you don't know. The fact that like innovation is talking about curiosity, and we don't know. We're not starting with a plan or something which is like obvious. We're starting with a question or a problem, and we have a problem here, so we can address it this way, right? So it's less like top down, like we have this and now we're going to implement this solution and that's it. It's more like exploring options. And did this, other than working remotely and doing workshops remotely, do you feel that it's changed the way you see in the company innovation, like what could be your position or how you see the company relating to innovation in a sense? Like, is it different?
I think temporarily it's different, and it's not just for like my organization, but I know like all the other colleagues in other organizations that have a similar role. So there is a lot of pressure right now also on innovation, because not all industries are doing well, right? A lot of industries are under pressure, and the natural thing then is like, let's cut costs, let's freeze, let's reprioritize. And unfortunately, innovation is always the first thing that is being reevaluated, let's put it like this. But again, I mean, in these exchange routes, we we basically learned that more or less everybody has the same challenge. On the one hand, innovation teams were quite often pulled because of their know-how or like facilitation skills to now suddenly not like work on this midterm project, but help right now business fix a challenge, because they know that, okay, you're familiar with it. So I don't know how to run a reasonable Zoom webinar, or I don't know, facilitate a virtual workshop. Now we have to, because we need the results. So a lot of people were pulled in, and capacities like focused on this right now. On the other hand, I think there's always a lot of potential also to change the way you work right now, not necessarily looking into what are opportunities mid to long term, but you can always optimize. And since there was a lot more pressure now to either improve costs or, I don't know, find a solution because the standard supply chain didn't work anymore, I think there was a lot of smaller innovation projects also happening there right now.
I think that what you're saying is the same all around, because I read a McKinsey wrote a report, and it said that innovation leaders know they're going to have like really hard time, maybe the most important time of their career life. And they know they need to find things like to work in an innovative and creative way. But most of them, first, what they do, they go to the core and try to cut expenses, and that's it. So I think it's like the first stage. And they think that the ones who will innovate more and the ones who will not be like afraid of the change or the unknown, they'll be the one to compete better after this very big change in the beginning, because it seems to be here to stay, like more or less. We're going to have a changed world. Like we're not going to go back to a normal state. It's going to be different.
Yeah, but I mean, even if the situation comes down, I think a lot of people now realized, wow, there is actually a lot that I can do virtually, right? I still believe for like certain workshops, it's so much better to be with the right people in a room for a few hours or maybe even days. But we also do a lot of business travel that is just a habit, and it puts stress on us because we're not only out working somewhere else, but also spending a lot of time traveling. And I think that's something where a lot of colleagues now also look into and say, hey, do I actually need to go there? Can we prepare a lot of things maybe beforehand in a different way? And do I need to be at work, or can I actually also work from home? Maybe not the whole time, but be a bit more flexible with my working hours. So I think these are some things that will definitely stay.
Sure. I think that some of the things will stay, some of the things will come back, but in general, as a world, like you can think about what are the changes in the workforce, for example. What are the changes in your maybe city or country? It's going to be different. And, you know, I always tell myself it could be either very frightening or very, I can think about curiosity or exciting. Yeah. And I'm trying to do both, not only the frightening, anxious part. That's what I'm trying. So could you tell us like about any like innovation project that you've been involved with and you're proud of, or it's like extraordinary thing that you learned from?
Yeah, of course there are many. So apologies if I don't mention all of them.
Yeah.
Maybe let's pick two different versions, right? I said in the beginning, I was also involved in like tech push for a long time. I think one thing that I'm still very proud of is that we a couple of years back developed technology called electroactive polymers. It was not super new, but it was an upcoming technology, and we really managed with a small team to, over like just 2 years, to really advance a lot in this technology. And not only did we learn a lot, also in collaboration with academia for a bit more deep dive on the topic, but it also helped in the team formation. And that was one of my big learning experience, that if you really have a complex topic, you need different expertise, people do speak a different language, but once you manage to somehow generate a common ground, you can really get a high performance team. So in terms of like technology development, we were really fast. We were still not fast enough to like management expectation, but like retrospectively, everybody in that team also learned so much, like, I don't know, whether it's application know-how later on or specifics around the technology. Even if that project fails, you still keep your learning. So
Sure.
That's something that you can contribute, plus also the experience with the team dynamics.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
Maybe another example from the market side, we run our entrepreneurship program in the company, and we always ask for challenges. So we're not necessarily asking, so what would you do if you had $1 million? But like, what are business challenges that we need to solve where our standard routines are not delivering the right results anymore? And we had a team from France who said, well, actually, it's more like a marketing sales challenge, because there is not really something coming out of our R&D pipeline right now. So no new product introductions. So what do our salespeople do, right? In that case, it was around veterinarians, and I said, okay, we can send them off, but there is no, like, what do they want to discuss, right? It's not that there's really much to think about. And somehow we need to also generate more trust or a closer connection again with our customers, veterinarians, plus also then the pet owners in the end. So they started with this challenge, and they had really no clear idea what would come out of it.
Sure.
In the end, they understood that also veterinarians want to be innovative and offer something valuable to the pet owners and not treating always the diseases. And pet owners in that case also just want to have peace of mind around their beloved pet and not being instructed in detail on how to apply certain medication or preventive measures. So in the end, they developed insurance model basically with
for pets,
which was then sold through the veterinarian, of course. So he was, she is then the trusted expert, so really achieving higher reputation again. But also the pet owners don't need to worry about, because they just have a subscription fee and they get the right treatments at the right point of time during the year, and everybody was happy. And it was really a great journey for the team again, to move from like, I need to sell a product to, maybe it's actually about something else right now. And I think that's something that we see in many areas of our lives, that our expectations change, that sometimes we do struggle from a like product or industry perspective to really address this.
Yeah, I think that in general, just to understand what are the problems that you could solve, or what are the things, what are the touch points you could address, it's much more, it's a better way to start a creative and innovative process, right? Because they thought about, we have this and we want to sell it. And once they went into the veterinarians and the pet owners, they said, okay, what could we offer, what they need? What could we offer them? What's bothering them? What are the thoughts that they have? And when you start from there, it's like, it's much easier, right? Yeah. And I think that in general, what you're saying is like, you're a very innovative company because you're using innovation in many ways and in many domains and in many use cases, not only just to develop a new product or to change the value proposition of a specific thing, right? It's like we have, in this case, we have a workforce that we could use in order to do something for the company. And it could be very interesting to see what can be done with these talented people, right? So it's really intriguing to see that a company that is used to the innovation processes is doing it not in a very like strict way. It could be done in various ways, right?
Yeah. I mean, you still always need your R&D pipeline, and you need a strict management. And I think that's also something a lot of people misunderstand. They say, oh, you're in the innovation team, you always have these fun and colorful workshops. A lot of people miss to see that there's actually more hard work than just running one fun workshop, because the preparation and usually after the workshop, the real work starts, right? And there's a lot of also learning how things are not working. And
there is a big difference between seeing an opportunity and really seizing it and expressing it and developing something and really executing it. It's something else, you know. There are so many great ideas out there, and the problem is really doing something with it, right? So the fact that you created these like very different aspects, one is very internal, one is external, one is technology, and the other one is more related to the processes. It means, and in the end, that they were created. So you went to the management and they said, yeah, it's a good idea, right? So the first one is like obvious because it's a long process, but the second one is not obvious. They would say, okay, we'll go into a different way of seeing our connection with the end clients and with our customers.
Yeah, it's actually a good point, because also it's not just about the people on the ground who need to learn how to work differently when developing a new business model, for example, but it's also about the senior management who needs to understand it's not about the best pitch or the most promising business case. We really need to ask for evidence, and it's different whether you operate in your standard market and you have all the numbers on hand and you really have a lot of gut feeling supporting your decision making. But if you either want to tap into a new market or introduce new products, or like in times of today, suddenly your markets change so fast and you don't necessarily can predict to which situation or point it will change. Then you also need to ask different questions to the teams, right? And not just giving money to the shiniest presentation and then hope for the best, but rather force them to show you evidence that, they really learned, and it's not just one customer who claims interest in the solution, but
that's the hard work. That's the part of the hard work that you really need to show the numbers and really convince. Although I feel that from what you're saying, that they are very interested in trying things out, because in many cases you see people like bringing some kind of consultants and building a lab and having like sprints and so forth. And in the end, they have so many great ideas and none of them get funded by the management, right? So it happens a lot, I guess.
Yeah, actually, there are two very valid points. So first of all, I mean, it's easy to generate ideas, right? But ideas don't help you much, right? You need them, but it's not, you need more tangible concepts where you have data already to show that there's a value. So you need to develop a pipeline and need to understand just because you have a lot of ideas doesn't mean that at some point a certain amount of money will come out. So you need to really make sure that you have the right stage gates and challenge to further develop this. And then the other thing about the consultants, I would say this is also a pitfall sometimes, because if you hire consultants, I mean, you do need them unless you have a lot of internal resources to facilitate things differently. But if you not only have a facilitation process, but also outsource a lot of the hard groundwork to be done, there is no learning process. So yes, you do see some results, but how do you want to judge? Because you don't have the experience, like why this is relevant or not, right? You're totally lost. And I feel that's one of the biggest challenges quite often for teams to realize, oh, gee, I really need to do this myself now. It's not like we have a workshop and then the agency takes care of it and then they come back with the final product, but it's up to us, right? And if we have a gap in certain skills, we need to find a way to address this.
Sure. I think that there is learning, but it doesn't stay within your team. It just goes away with the agency. What you're saying is that there needs to be like a process that after this very intensive work, the learning stays and something very tangible from the experience itself stays, other than the MVP or the validated idea, whatever stays with the team. So in general, when you have this like experience, it's very important to see the experience as one of the deliverables of the process, right? Yeah, which is very important. And could you give us like a few professional tips if somebody wants to have more innovative company and in his like workplace?
Of course. So I would say always stay positive and don't give up too quickly. It is a long journey, right? And then you do need to trust the method, because also there, if it's a change process or if you're trying to learn new skills, just because it worked in one company doesn't mean it works the exact same way in your company, because the environment is different. So you need to believe, learn, and then also provide enough freedom to the people you work with, because that's my biggest learning, right? If you generate a win-win situation or really inspire people to go beyond, so much great things can happen, right? So you need to believe in the diversity, and you need to believe in the power of people, and together you will achieve something.
Right. That's a great thing to think about, like the power of people working together to solve something. And each one has his point of view. And sometimes people try to avoid people that don't think the same as them, and they try to avoid the clash. But in many cases, when I do these workshops, I tell them, bring the person that is the one who will ask all the hard questions, the one who will not be the easy partner, because I think it's so important in many cases just to have a diverse way of mindset and thinking together is so powerful in general. And one more thing that we talked about in the context of COVID is the power of people wanting to solve something big for everyone together. And it seems like this very strange time created one way of thinking of a problem for so many diverse people from all around the world. And all of them want to do something good or something better, not just, go to work, come back, and really utilizing their talents, to do something better in the world, which is like, there's something good within this very strange situation. That's for sure.
Yeah, something more meaningful.
Yeah, like people are looking for meaning. They look for something which is substantial, but still more than them, more than their daily thing. And I'm sure that in general, innovation teams, they have more people which are very creative and open-minded in many cases. But you can see that people which are not that open-minded, still they can give so much only from the way they're seeing things, right? So as you said, from the students, they are very open-minded, but they don't have any tools. So they are very fresh. But the way they see things makes you feel different with it, right? So it's really important. Okay, so we're almost out of time. And I want to thank you for all this like very interesting talk, and I really enjoyed it. If somebody wants to ask you something or be in touch with you, where would they go? Like your LinkedIn?
Of course, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. We also published quite a few elements of our innovation journey. We recently ran a webinar with Alexander Osterwalder, which is now also online, and the Strategizer YouTube channel, I believe. We also published our earlier work in case studies together with Julian Birkinshaw in Harvard Business Review or London Business School. So if you search for this, or I'm also happy to share the links afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
In general, we do have an open innovation platform called innovate.bayer.com, where you can learn about all the different programs, and then, of course, also reach out to the right people.
Sure. So thank you very much, Julia, for your time. It's been such a pleasure. And I hope we'll have more like these like talks about thinking about the future and how could it be better.
Yeah, thank you as well, Adi. It was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. See you. Bye-bye. Yay. I'm Adi Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.